I'm standing in rubble, splintered pine beams scattered like broken bones, shattered windows glinting in the afternoon sun. My grandfather's hand-carved railing, the one he shaped with a draw knife over 3 winters, crushed under a bulldozer track. Everything reeks of diesel and 60 years of stolen memories. They demolished my family's cabin 5 days ago, while I was in Memphis burying my father. No permit, no warning, no legal right. Just a bulldozer, a smug HOA president named Constance, and a forged court order. She thought I was just another grieving son she could steamroll. Too broken to fight back. Big mistake. I'm Marcus Aboa, county building inspector for 18 years. Every demolition in this county crosses my desk. Every code violation, every secret. Constance just handed me a felony wrapped in a bow. What would you do if your HOA destroyed your inheritance while you buried family? Drop it below. Where are you watching from? I guarantee your neighbor has an HOA nightmare too. Let me back up 6 weeks, before the rubble, before Constance made the worst decision of her entitled life. My father died of a heart attack on a Tuesday. Found him in his recliner. Braves game still on. He was 73. I was his only son. The cabin was supposed to be our retirement plan, 2 old men on a dock, teaching my daughter how to gut trout the way 3 generations of Eboa men learned. That cabin was built in 1963 by my grandfather, Hank, World War II vet, master carpenter, the kind of man who shaped wood like other men shape excuses. Took him 2 years. Every beam, every joint, every carved railing done by hand. I can still smell it. Cedar planks and fish cleaner fluid, metallic well water ice cold in August, the creak of dock boards underfoot. At dawn, loons calling across the water like church bells. Every doorframe had his tool marks, imperfections that were signatures. I inherited it in '09 when grandfather died. Dad used it weekends. When he passed, it became mine, fully paid off. The one piece of family legacy I had left after 18 years of county paychecks that never stretched. I'm 52. My daughter Sienna's 24, doing graphic design in Portland. That cabin was going to be hers someday. 12 years ago, some developer bought the land around the lake and dropped in 87 McMansions, Pinewood Shores. Every house builder beige, every lawn manicured, starting price $400 grand. With those houses came the HOA, $450 a month, rules about grass height, mailbox designs, paint colors, the kind of organization that gives clipboard carriers a kingdom. Enter Constance Whitmore, 62, real estate broker, white Lexus, Boston transplant, that smile that never reaches the eyes. 7 years as HOA president, measuring grass with rulers, reporting pickup trucks as eyesores, perfecting just following the rules while making lives hell. My grandfather's cabin predated her HOA by 43 years. Grandfathered, legally untouchable. I had surveys, original 1963 permits, continuous family ownership on record. Constance didn't care about laws. She cared about control. 3 days after my father's funeral, while I was in Memphis burying him, a certified letter arrived. Notice of non-compliance and remediation requirement. My cabin was a visual blight affecting community property values. 14 days to repaint it beige, remove the dock, tear down grandfather's tool shed, or they do it for me, at my expense. The letter cited covenants that didn't exist in 1963, legal jargon designed to intimidate, a deadline impossible while I buried my father. I should have hired a lawyer immediately. But I believed I could reason with them. I'm a county building inspector. I know property law inside out. I requested an emergency board meeting. First mistake. The meeting was in Constance's McMansion, in a room she unironically called the clubhouse. 6 board members sat across a table like a tribunal. I brought documentation, survey maps, original permits, grandfather's deed. Constance didn't look. Mr. Eboa, she said, voice dripping with synthetic sympathy, we sympathize with your loss, truly, but your cabin drags down property values. Rules are rules. I opened my folder. My grandfather built this before your HOA existed. It's grandfathered under county code. She cut me off. We've consulted attorneys. Your non-compliance is documented. 14 days or we take corrective action. Corrective action? You mean demolition? If necessary. Her smile never wavered. The man beside her, Dale Whitmore, mid-40s, contractor's tan, same last name. Her son, I'd learn later, ran Whitmore and Sons Construction. Convenient. The vote was 6-0. Authorization granted to remediate my property if I didn't comply. I left thinking I'd handle this through proper channels. File an injunction. Talk to the county attorney. I'm not some random homeowner they can bully. I'm the guy who approves their building permits. Surely they'd follow the law. That was my second mistake. I assumed Constance Whitmore gave a damn about laws. She didn't. She gave a damn about showing everyone she had power. And 5 days later, while I was scattering my father's ashes in Memphis, she sent in the bulldozers. I was in Memphis for 6 days, funeral on Thursday, estate lawyer on Friday, family obligations through the weekend. The whole time, my phone kept buzzing with Pinewood Shores HOA emails, reminders about my compliance deadline, updates about scheduled remediation. Corporate doublespeak for, "We're coming for your property." I ignored them. I had a father to bury. Before I left, I locked the cabin tight, posted a sign, "No trespassing. Owner returns October 14th. Called my neighbor, Lyle, 71, retired fisherman, lived 2 lots down, asked him to keep watch. "Anyone shows up with equipment, you call me immediately," I told him. "You got it, Marcus. And hey, I'm real sorry about your dad." Day 4, Tuesday morning. I was at my aunt's house drinking burnt coffee when my phone lit up. Lyle, video call. I answered. "Hey, Lyle, what's Marcus?" His face filled the screen, wind whipping his white hair. Behind him, diesel engines roared. "They're here. 3 trucks. A bulldozer. Constance is standing in your driveway with a clipboard." My coffee cup hit the floor. "Tell them to stop. Right now. I'm calling the sheriff." I switched to speaker, pulled up the sheriff's non-emergency line while Lyle's video kept rolling. I could hear it. The backup beeper on heavy equipment, the hydraulic whine of an excavator arm extending, the first crack of wood snapping. Sheriff dispatch picked up. Professional. Bored. "County Sheriff, what's your emergency?" "This is Marcus Aboa, County Building Inspector. Someone's demolishing my property at 47 Lakeshore Drive without permits. I need officers there immediately." "Sir, we have a report that the homeowner was notified and—" "I'm the homeowner. I'm in Memphis burying my father. This is illegal demolition." 30 seconds of hold music. On Lyle's video feed, I watched the bulldozer blade bite into my grandfather's front porch, watched the railing, the one he carved over 3 winters, splinter like kindling. Dispatch came back. "Sir, the HOA representative on site says they have authorization and a court order." I kept my voice level, pulled from 18 years of dealing with contractors who thought rules didn't apply to them. "There is no court order. Check your system. And here's what else they don't have: demolition permits, asbestos inspection certificates for a pre-1980 structure, hazardous waste disposal authorization. That's 3 separate county violations happening right now. Back when I was training new inspectors, I drill this into them. Residential demolition isn't just about knocking things down. It's about what you're releasing into the environment. My grandfather's cabin had asbestos siding, lead paint, probably old fuel residue in the shed. Tearing into it without proper containment and certified disposal wasn't just illegal. It was poisoning the groundwater that fed into the lake. "Sir, this appears to be a civil HOA matter. You'll need to contact your attorney." The line went dead. I stared at my phone. Then I booked an emergency flight. $640 for a seat that didn't recline. Earliest departure was 6 p.m., 8 hours away. I kept Lyle on video the whole time, watched them work. Watched Dale's crew, 4 guys in Whitmore and Son shirts, rip through 60 years of memories in 11 hours straight. They didn't just demolish the structure, they destroyed everything inside: my grandfather's toolbox, my father's fishing rods, photo albums, the cast iron skillet Grandma used for cornbread. Lyle narrated like a heartbroken sports commentator. "They just pulled down the back wall. Oh God, Marcus, they're not even being careful. They're just smashing everything." I couldn't look away, couldn't close the app. By the time I landed, by the time I rented a car and drove the 43 miles from the airport, it was over. I pulled into my property at 9 p.m., golden hour light on the lake. The kind of evening my dad loved. Everything quiet except crickets and water lapping the shore. The cabin was gone. Just a concrete slab, piles of splintered lumber, shattered glass catching the last sunlight like broken teeth. The smell of diesel fuel hung thick in the air, mixing with sawdust and something chemical I couldn't identify. And there, staked into the ground beside the foundation, was a laminated sign. I walked over, read it. Per Pinewood Shores HOA Bylaw 14.3, non-compliant structure removed. Restoration and disposal costs, $32,700. Invoice to follow. Constance Whitmore, HOA President. I stood there holding that sign, hands shaking, not from grief, from rage so pure it felt like ice water in my veins. She didn't just destroy my cabin, she was going to bill me for it. I pulled out my phone, opened my county database app, the same one I use every day for inspections. Searched the address. Demolition permits filed, 0. Asbestos inspection certificates, 0. Hazardous waste disposal permits, 0. Constance had just committed 3 separate felonies and created an environmental hazard. And she'd done it all while I was burying my father, probably thinking I'd be too broken to fight back. I knelt down, picked up a piece of my grandfather's railing. The wood was still warm from the sun. I could feel his chisel marks under my thumb. Then I smiled. Because Constance Whitmore had no idea she'd just handed me everything I needed to bury her. I didn't sleep that night. Sat on the foundation slab until dawn, watching the lake turn from black to silver to gold. My phone buzzed with condolence texts from relatives in Memphis. I didn't answer. I was too busy making a list. Not a revenge list, a documentation list. Because here's what Constance didn't understand about building inspectors. We don't get mad, we get methodical. First item, file a police report. I drove to the station at 7 a.m., still wearing yesterday's clothes, smelling like diesel and sawdust. Detective Carla Reyes met me in the lobby. We'd worked together on contractor fraud cases before. I'd flag suspicious permits. She'd investigate the money trails. Marcus, she said, and her face told me she already knew. I saw the property yesterday. I'm so sorry. I need to file a report. Criminal trespassing, destruction of property over $25,000, illegal disposal of hazardous materials. She led me to an interview room. I walked her through everything. The certified letter, the board meeting, the demolition while I was burying my father, Lyle's video footage, 47 clips, 8 hours of documentation, the laminated sign demanding I pay them $32,000. Carla wrote it all down. This is solid, felony destruction of property. But Marcus, HOA cases get complicated. They'll claim they had authority under their bylaws. Their bylaws don't override county law, I said. No demolition permit, no asbestos inspection. They just release carcinogens into a residential area. She slid a card across the table. You need a lawyer. Call Judith Kwan. Second item, hire that lawyer. Judith Kwan's office was above a dry cleaner downtown, water-stained ceiling tiles and a secretary who looked like she'd seen every scam. Judith herself was 58, Korean-American, reading glasses on a chain, reputation for destroying HOA boards in court. I'd seen her testify once, watched her turn a smug property manager into a stammering mess in under 10 minutes. Mr. Aboa, she said, shaking my hand. Constance Whitmore's made enemies over the years, but this is low even for her. Can we sue? We're going to sue, but first we're requesting every financial document the HOA has produced in 5 years. She smiled. It wasn't nice. HOAs are technically nonprofits. Sunshine laws apply. They have to disclose finances to any member who requests them. In my experience, when an HOA president is brazen enough to illegally demolish someone's home, they're usually stealing in other ways too. That landed. I remembered reading about HOA embezzlement cases when I first bought into Pinewood Shores. Boards that treated dues like personal piggy banks, paid contractors triple rates, falsified expense reports. Most homeowners never bothered checking the books. They just paid their monthly fees and assumed someone responsible was managing the money. Third item, routine county inspections. As county building inspector, I have authority to inspect any structure for code compliance. It's not personal. It's literally my job. And Pinewood Shores was due for its rotating district inspection anyway. I started with Dale's recent construction projects, pulled permits for every home Whitmore & Sons had built in 3 years. 11 properties. On paper, everything looked fine. But paper lies. Wood doesn't. I showed up at the first house Thursday morning. Nice 4-bedroom colonial, young couple, 2 kids. The husband answered. Can I help you? County building inspection. Routine compliance check on your 2022 construction. His face went pale. Is something wrong? That's what I'm here to find out. I found violations in 15 minutes. The attic had no fire stops between joists, meaning if fire started, it would spread through the ceiling like a highway. HVAC venting was improper, pumping carbon monoxide into ductwork instead of outside. Deck railing was 2 inches too low, fall hazard for the kids. None of it cosmetic. All of it dangerous. All of it Dale cutting corners to pad profit margins. I wrote it up. You have 30 days to remedy these violations or the county issues daily fines. More importantly, this is your family's safety. Get a lawyer and contact your builder. But we passed final inspection 2 years ago. You passed someone's inspection, not mine. I hit 4 more houses that day. Similar violations in all of them. By Friday, 63 code failures across 11 properties. Dale's company wasn't just shoddy. It was systematically dangerous. Every homeowner was about to get a very expensive letter. Saturday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Marcus Eboa. You son of a bitch! Dale's voice, shaking with rage. You're inspecting my houses? I'm inspecting all houses in my district. Yours just happen to be fire hazards. This is harassment. Retaliation because of your shack. My grandfather's cabin. And no, this is me doing my job, which is more than I can say for you. He hung up. 20 minutes later, another call. Constance. Mr. Eboa, we need to talk. No, we don't. You're abusing your position to harass board members. I'm filing a complaint with county administration. You do that, and while you're at it, explain why you demolished a structure without permits, without asbestos inspection, without my approval. I'll wait. Silence. Then, this isn't over. No, I agreed. It's just starting. Judith called me on Tuesday. Marcus, you need to come to my office. Now. Her voice had that edge I'd heard in courtroom recordings, the one that meant she'd found blood in the water. I drove downtown, took the stairs 2 at a time. Her office smelled like burnt coffee and the kind of cheap air freshener that makes everything worse. Judith was at her desk, surrounded by spreadsheets, highlighters in 3 colors. Sit down, she said. You're going to want to be sitting for this. She spun her laptop around. I filed the Sunshine Law request Friday. HOA fought it for exactly 4 hours before their attorney told them they had no legal grounds to refuse. Got 3 years of financials yesterday. She tapped the screen. Pinewood Shores collected $470,000 in annual dues. 87 homes, $450 a month. Should be straightforward. Landscape, insurance, maintenance, reserves. She highlighted a number in toxic yellow. Budget shows only $290 in documented expenses. That's $180,000 unaccounted for, per year, for 3 years. I stared at the screen. $500,000? $540, give or take, and I found where it went. She pulled up another sheet. Dale's company. Whitmore & Sons billed the HOA $94,000 last year for landscape maintenance. I called 3 competitors. Market rate, $28,000. Dale charged AAA. Kickback, I said. She nodded. Textbook, but it gets better. The HOA paid $47,000 in legal fees to Richard Pemberton, disbarred in Massachusetts 2 years ago for practicing without a license. Related to Constance? Brother-in-law, and here's my favorite, Constance submitted $18,000 in administrative expenses, meals, spa visits, her Lexus lease payments. She literally billed the HOA for her car. Woman has the audacity of a mob boss, but the imagination of a parking ticket. That got a laugh out of me. First one in a week, Judith continued. Here's the smoking gun. She pulled up an email chain. Constance to Dale, 3 days before your cabin demolition. Read this. I read. Handle the Eboa problem permanently. Bill it as emergency landscape remediation. Usual split. Dale's response? Done. He'll be too broken to fight back. My hands started shaking. Not from fear, from something sharper. She planned it, Judith said, voice flat. Calculated it. Intended to profit by billing the HOA for demolition, then splitting the money with her son. Your grief was just convenient timing. I remembered something my grandfather used to say when I was young, watching him work on the cabin. He'd explain how wood joists distribute weight, how one rotten beam could collapse an entire structure if you didn't catch it early. Foundation's only as strong as its weakest point, he'd tell me. You let rot spread, the whole thing comes down. That's what Constance had done. Let corruption spread until the entire HOA was load-bearing fraud. What do we do with this? I asked. We bury her, criminally and civilly. I'm packaging this for the district attorney. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. Multiple felony counts. And I'm filing a class action on behalf of all 87 homeowners. Breach of fiduciary duty. Full restitution plus damages. The other homeowners don't know yet. They will. I'm sending a letter to every address tomorrow. Detailed breakdown of where their money went. Spa days, Lexus payments, Dale's inflated invoices. Give them 48 hours. Half the neighborhood will want Constance's head. When do we go public? I asked. She raised an eyebrow. You want press? I want everyone to see it. Not a quiet plea deal. Public. I want every homeowner who paid $450 a month to watch her get arrested. Judith grinned. I've been waiting my entire career for a case this righteous. I pulled out my phone, opened my inspection database. Give me 20 minutes. For what? Research. I'd been thinking about this since Saturday. Constance filed that complaint with county administration, claiming I was abusing my position. If she wanted to play that game, I'd show her what abuse actually looked like, when it was legal. I pulled up every property Constance had bought, sold, or managed in the last 5 years. Cross-referenced them with building permits. Found something interesting. Very interesting. In 2021, Constance sold a commercial property downtown, an old warehouse converted to loft apartments, listed it as fully renovated, code compliant. Sold for $800,000. I pulled the permit history. No permits filed for renovation, no electrical inspection, no final occupancy certificate. She'd sold a non-compliant building and pocketed $750,000. I showed Judith, her eyes went wide. That's real estate fraud, separate criminal case. And it's still occupied, 23 units. All of them illegal. I stood up. I'm doing an emergency inspection tomorrow morning. If those apartments are non-compliant, everyone gets evicted until violations are fixed. Building owner has to sue Constance for fraudulent sale. Another victim. Another headline. Judith laughed. Actually laughed. You're not just burying her, you're salting the earth. She demolished my grandfather's legacy while I buried my father, I said. I'm making sure she loses everything legal, slowly, like she's stuck in her own personal DMV line. I love my job, Judith said. Let's destroy her. Wednesday night, I was in the county archives basement at 8 p.m. surrounded by leather-bound deed books that smelled like mildew and bureaucracy. The clerk had given me a weird look when I requested records going back to 1959, but I had clearance. Building inspectors need access to historical property data. You can't enforce modern codes without understanding what came before. I was looking for my grandfather's original land purchase, the 1963 deed I already had, but I wanted to see what existed before Pinewood Shores, before the developer, before any of this mess. I found it on page 247 of the 1959 Master Deed Book. Lake District Land Grant recorded March 14, 1959. The entire area, what would become Pinewood Shores plus my grandfather's lot, was originally one parcel, donated to the county by Millicent Ardmore, lumber heiress, conservation advocate, one of those old money types who actually gave a damn about legacy. I started reading the deed restrictions. Standard stuff at first. Single-family residences only. No commercial enterprise. Mandatory public lake access maintained in perpetuity. Then I hit paragraph 7, read it twice. Pulled out my phone, took 3 photos, read it again to make sure I wasn't hallucinating from archive dust and rage. Demolition or removal of any pre-existing structure on granted parcels requires unanimous approval by County Board of Supervisors. Violation of terms results in property reversion to county for conservation purposes and public use. I sat back, stared at those words. My grandfather probably never even knew this restriction existed when he bought his lot in '63. Just wanted a quiet place to fish and build something with his hands. Now, 60 years later, that same bureaucratic language he never read was about to save his legacy and destroy the woman who tried to erase it. Constance didn't just illegally demolish my cabin. She'd violated a deed restriction that predated her HOA by 43 years. A restriction that ran with the land, binding on all future owners. A restriction that, if violated, meant the entire neighborhood, all 87 houses, could technically revert to county ownership. Most people buying property never check the grantor history, never dig past the most recent title transfer. That's how restrictions like this get forgotten, buried in archive basements until someone like me goes looking. I called Judith. She picked up on the first ring, sounded like she was eating dinner. Marcus, it's 8:30. I found something. County Archives, original 1959 deed restriction for the entire Pinewood Shores area. I read her paragraph 7. Silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Holy hell. Yeah. Marcus, are you telling me Constance's illegal demolition potentially voided the title protection for every homeowner in that development? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I could hear her moving, chair scraping, probably grabbing a notepad. This is leverage. Beautiful, terrifying leverage. We can't actually take everyone's homes. That's legally complicated and politically impossible. But we can use this to force a settlement that protects everyone except Constance and Dale. What kind of settlement? HOA dissolves. Replaced by Voluntary Neighborhood Association. No mandatory fees. County takes over covenant enforcement. Neutral, professional, no more petty tyrants with rulers. Dale's company gets banned from future work. All homes re-inspected by third-party contractors at Dale's expense, and Constance pays full restitution from personal assets, not HOA funds. The other homeowners? Protected. We cure the deed violation through criminal prosecution of Constance, public lake access restored, conservation easement on undeveloped parcels. County accepts that as remedy. I thought about those families. People who'd done nothing wrong except trust the wrong board president. I don't want innocent people losing their homes. Neither do I. That's why we negotiate. Constance burns. Everyone else gets protected. And you get your cabin rebuilt, restitution, and we name the new public dock after your grandfather. Turn his legacy into something that protects this place forever. I closed the deed book, ran my hand over the cracked leather cover. She thought she was destroying one old cabin. She triggered a legal cascade that's going to restructure an entire neighborhood, Judith finished. Never underestimate a building inspector with archive access. Thursday morning, Lyle's garage. The smell of motor oil and old wood, coffee pot perpetually brewing on a card table next to a whiteboard covered in my handwriting. Timeline on the left. Demolition, emails, financial fraud, evidence categories on the right. Criminal, civil, regulatory. Photos of Constance and Dale pinned to a corkboard like we were hunting serial killers. Which, in a way, we were. Serial embezzlers. Lyle stood back, hands on hips, studying the board. Looks like something from a cop show. Good, I said. Because that's what's coming. Cops, DA, press, the whole circus. Judith arrived at 9, carrying 3 accordion folders stuffed with documents. Behind her, Detective Carla Reyes in plain clothes, looking official even in jeans. Gentlemen, Judith said, and Lyle, thank you for hosting our war room. Happy to help. Coffee's burnt, but it's strong. We gathered around Lyle's workbench. Judith laid out the game plan. The mandatory HOA annual meeting is October 28th, 3 weeks away. Constance has to attend, bylaws require it, or face automatic removal. We're going to turn that meeting into her public execution, legally speaking. Carla nodded. Here's the structure. 4 sections. Marcus handles demolition evidence and code violations. I handle financial fraud. We drop the deed restriction bomb at the end. Then Carla arrests them. Judith pulled out a binder. Tabs color-coded. Section 1. The demolition. Lyle's video footage. 3 clips, 8 minutes total. Shows Constance on site directing the crew. Then the forged court order side by side with county records proving no permits filed. Marcus explains what should have happened. I'd been thinking about this part for days. People need to understand it's not just bureaucracy. When you demolish a pre-1980 structure without proper protocols, you release asbestos fibers, lead dust, chemical residue into air and groundwater. My grandfather's cabin had asbestos siding. They ripped it apart with a bulldozer, left debris in open piles for 3 days. Anyone who walked past breathed carcinogens. That's what they don't teach you in civics class. Environmental regulations aren't about red tape. They're about preventing cancer clusters and poisoned wells. I'd seen it in other counties where contractors cut corners. Kids getting sick. Aquifers contaminated. By the time anyone connects the dots, damage is done. Carla made notes. That plays well. Not just personal grudge, public safety. Judith continued. Section 2. Financial fraud. I present the spreadsheets. HOA collected $470,000 annually, spent $290, can't account for $180. Then we detail where it went. Dale's inflated invoices, fake attorney fees, Constance's Lexus payments, the smoking gun email about splitting demolition profits. How do we present numbers without losing people? Lyle asked. Judith smiled. My daughter's making infographics, big colorful charts showing where dues went. One column, what you paid for. Next column, what you actually got. Kickbacks, spa days, visual comparison. Anyone can understand theft when you show pictures. Section 3, Carla said. Code violations. Marcus found 63 failures across 11 homes. Missing fire stops, improper venting, structural deficiencies. We bring in an independent engineer to testify about immediate dangers. Fire risk, carbon monoxide, collapse potential. Projected repair costs, $780,000 total, $80,000 per affected homeowner. People are going to lose their minds, Lyle said. That's the point, I said. Dale's been stealing twice. HOA kickbacks and building death traps they paid premium prices for. Judith pulled out the deed restriction. Section 4, the finale. I present the 1959 original deed. Explain that Constance's illegal demolition violated terms that could technically invalidate title protection for all 87 homes. Let that panic sink in. Then we offer the solution. Criminal prosecution, HOA dissolution, county oversight, conservation easement, full restitution, protect the innocent, burn the guilty. DA's on board? I asked Carla. She nodded. Officers will attend. Soon as presentation's done, we arrest both. Fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, trespassing, destruction of property, multiple felony counts, warrants in hand. Media? I contacted Inez Soto at the Lakeshore Gazette, I said. Camera crew, plus 2 TV stations, regional news minimum. Lyle refilled everyone's coffee. So we're really doing this. Public arrest, cameras rolling, whole neighborhood watching. Yes, Judith said. Because Constance spent 7 years making lives miserable over grass height and mailbox colors, stole $500,000, demolished a veteran's cabin while his grandson buried his father. She thought nobody would fight back because fighting HOAs is expensive and exhausting, and most people give up. She looked at me. But she picked the wrong person. Someone who knows every building code, every permit requirement, every legal loophole in this county. Someone with nothing left to lose and everything to gain. I raised my burnt coffee. To bearing tyrants. To bearing tyrants, everyone echoed. 3 weeks until showtime. 24 hours before the meeting, Constance made her move. Cornered animals always lash out. Saturday morning, I woke to 17 notifications on the Pinewood Shores Facebook group. New posts from accounts I'd never seen. Generic profile photos, names like Jennifer Thompson and Robert Miller, all created within 48 hours. Bot farm. The posts were identical in strategy. Does anyone else think Marcus Iboa is abusing his inspector position? Anonymous sources say he takes bribes from contractors. His daughter's Instagram is just setting up for a lawsuit payday. That last one made my blood boil. They were going after Sienna. I screenshot everything, sent it to Judith. She called immediately. Bot farm probably cost her $3,000. Let her waste her money, I said. The comments are already destroying her. I wasn't wrong. 63 comments, 60 defending me. People posting about inspections I'd done that saved their families from faulty wiring, gas leaks, structural failures, misses. Nova wrote, Marcus Iboa has more integrity in his little finger than Constance Whitmore has in her entire body. And he doesn't steal our dues for spa days. Saturday afternoon, Lyle called, voice tight. Marcus, you need to hear this. What happened? Dale showed up at the boat launch, tried to bribe me, said Whitmore and Sons would rebuild your cabin for free, 2 stories, deck, the works. All I had to do was convince you to drop the case. What did you say? Told him he was trying to bribe away a felony with lumber. Then he got nasty, started talking about how accidents happen on docks. Rotten wood, bad nails, how an old man could fall through and drown and nobody would question it. My hand tightened on the phone. He threatened you? I recorded the whole thing. Video and audio got him threatening me on tape. Lyle, you're a genius. I watch too much Law and Order. Want me to send it to Detective Reyes? Send it to everyone. Reyes, Judith, me. That's attempted bribery and witness intimidation. 2 more felonies. An hour later, Constance's nuclear option. Email from county HR CC'd to my supervisor and county administrator. Formal complaint alleging I weaponized my position for personal vendetta. Attached were cherry-picked inspection reports. Only 14 Pinewood Shores properties, none of my other 300 inspections that year. Demanded my immediate suspension. I forwarded it to Patricia Vance, county administrator. 61 veteran bureaucrat had been navigating county politics since before I got my license. She called 20 minutes later. Marcus, come to my office now. Patricia's office smelled like peppermint tea and old paper. She had the complaint printed, red pen marks everywhere. Sit. She slid a document across the desk. Your complete inspection log for the year. I pulled it this morning. The log showed 312 inspections across 8 districts. Pinewood Shores was District 5, scheduled for rotating inspection in September, before the demolition. You've been rotating through districts on schedule for 4 years. Pinewood Shores was due. The violations you found are consistent with prior complaints about Whitmore and Sons from the previous inspector. You were following up, not initiating. She leaned back. This complaint is transparent retaliation. I'm dismissing it. Off the record, bury her. I've been dealing with Constance Whitmore for 7 years. Woman's a menace. That night, Sienna called from Portland. Dad, my Instagram's blowing up. Someone posted that I'm exploiting your trauma. Constance hired a bot farm. It's backfiring spectacularly. I gained 4,000 followers today. People are DMing their own HOA horror stories. I think I'm accidentally starting a movement. Despite everything, I laughed. Your grandfather would have loved that, turning her sabotage into something good. How are you feeling? About tomorrow? I looked out my apartment window. Could see the lake in the distance, moonlight on black water. Honestly, calm. I've done the work, built the case. All I have to do tomorrow is show up and tell the truth. You're going to destroy her, Dad. Yeah, I agreed. I am. Sunday morning, day of the meeting. I woke at 5 a.m., couldn't go back to sleep. Drove to the cabin site, watched sunrise over the lake the way my father used to. Found a small wildflower growing through a crack in the foundation. Purple bloom, stubborn and alive. I took it as a sign. You can bulldoze the structure, but you can't kill what it meant. By evening, I was ready. The evidence was organized. The witnesses were briefed. The cameras were coming. Constance had spent the week trying to destroy me with bots, bribes, and bureaucratic complaints. All she'd done was add more charges to her arrest warrant. 6 p.m., showtime, 6 p.m., Pinewood Shores Community Center. The parking lot was packed. 94 cars, people standing outside because folding chairs ran out. Inez Soto had her camera tripod set up in back, live stream running, 2 TV news vans outside, reporters doing stand-ups. This was about to be a circus, and Constance was the main attraction. I walked in at 6:15, felt every eye turn, some sympathetic, some curious, a few hostile. Dale's friends, probably. I nodded to Lyle, sitting front row with Mrs. Nova. Judith was at a side table, 3 laptops connected to the projector. Carla Reyes stood against the back wall in plainclothes. 2 uniformed deputies waited outside. Constance sat at the head table like a queen. White blazer, pearl necklace, that smile that never reached her eyes. Dale beside her, sweating through his polo despite the AC. The other 4 board members looked like they wanted to be anywhere else. Constance called the meeting to order. Gavel strike. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. Before we begin regular business, I'd like to address some baseless accusations. I stood. Madam President, I'd like to invoke my right under State Statute 47.3 to present evidence of fiduciary breach before any other business. Her smile tightened. Mr. Aboa, this is highly irregular. Judith stood. It's the law. He has the floor. Constance looked at her fake attorney brother-in-law who'd gone pale. Yes, that statute applies. She sat back. Fine, 5 minutes. I'll need more than 5. I walked to the front, pulled up the first slide. My grandfather's cabin. Sunset light, the dock, the hand-carved railing. Beautiful, whole. This was my family's cabin, built 1963 by my grandfather, World War II veteran, stood 60 years, until September 23rd, when it was demolished while I buried my father. Silence. Next slide, Lyle's video. 3 minutes, the bulldozer biting into the porch. Railing splintering. Constance in my driveway with her clipboard directing the crew. The debris piles. Someone gasped. I let it play. When it ended. No demolition permit filed. No asbestos inspection, despite this being a pre-1980 structure with hazardous materials. No proper disposal. This is criminal trespassing, felony destruction of property, illegal environmental hazard disposal. Next slide. The forged court order side by side with county records. The HOA claimed legal authorization. This is their court order. Here's the county system showing it was a dismissed small claims case. It was fake. Constance stood. You're twisting. Sit down, Miss Whitmore. Carla's voice from the back. Not loud. Final. Constance sat. Judith took over. Financial spreadsheets. Let's talk about your dues. HOA collected $470,000 annually. Budget shows $290 in expenses, $180 unaccounted for. She clicked through infographics. Devastating. Dale Whitmore charged $94,000 for landscaping. Market rate, $28,000. Richard Pemberton received $47,000 in legal fees. He's disbarred. Constance submitted $18,000 in expenses. Spa visits, restaurants, her Lexus lease. She billed you for her personal car. The room erupted. Dale tried to stand. Carla moved forward. He sat. Judith pulled up the email, 10 feet tall on screen. Handle the Aboa problem permanently. Bill it as emergency remediation. Usual split. Dale's response. Done. He'll be too broken to fight back. Chaos. 70 people shouting. Someone yelled, "You stole from us." Mrs. Nova stood, pointing. You destroyed his home to make money? I took over. Code violations. Dale built 11 homes here. I inspected them. 63 violations, missing fire stops, improper venting, structural deficiencies, repair costs, $780,000, $80,000 per homeowner. Photos on screen. Open attics with no fire barriers, gas venting into walls, deck railings at dangerous heights. A woman stood, voice shaking. We have 2 kids. Our house isn't safe. Dale Whitmore cut every corner to pad profits, I said. Your HOA president helped. Constance grabbed the microphone. This is a witch hunt. Marcus is abusing his position. Judith cut through. Would you like to explain under oath? The district attorney is very interested. Constance went white. Dale stood. I'm not saying anything without my lawyer. Sit down, Mr. Whitmore. Carla walked to the front. Stay for the rest. Judith pulled up the final document. The 1959 deed. The original land grant included a restriction. Any demolition of pre-existing structures requires county board approval. Violation results in property reversion to county. Silence. Then chaos. We could lose our homes? Because of Miss Whitmore's illegal actions, yes. However, the county and Mr. Eboa have a solution. Criminal prosecution, full restitution, HOA dissolution. Carla stepped forward. Badge out. Constance Whitmore, Dale Whitmore, stand up. 2 deputies entered. You're under arrest, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, criminal trespassing, destruction of property. The room erupted. Cameras flashing. Inez's live stream at 11,000 viewers. The deputies moved in. Handcuffs clicked. Constance turned to me, being led away. You've ruined me! Ruined me! I met her eyes. Calm. Final. No, Constance, you demolished my family's legacy while I buried my father. I just made sure everyone knew who you really are. My grandfather built that cabin after surviving World War II. It was never an eyesore. It was a monument to resilience. Something you'll never understand. The room stood. 83 people applauding. Mrs. Nova hugged me, crying. Inez's live stream hit 14,000. Constance and Dale walked out in handcuffs, camera flashes lighting them up like the evening news. Justice, finally, looked exactly right. The deputies led Constance and Dale toward the exit. Camera flashes turned the room into a strobe light. For 7 years, Constance had stood at that head table dispensing judgments about grass height and mailbox colors. Now she was leaving in handcuffs. But we weren't done. The arrests were spectacle. What came next was healing. Judith called the room to order. Took a minute for chaos to settle. People still standing, some crying, some staring at the doors where Constance had disappeared. Everyone, please sit. We have important business. Slowly, people returned to chairs. The energy had shifted, no longer angry, something closer to shell-shocked relief. Judith pulled up a new slide. Here's the situation. Constance's illegal demolition violated a 1959 deed restriction that technically puts all 87 properties at risk. Before anyone panics, we have a solution. She clicked through bullet points. 1. Criminal prosecution proceeds. No plea deals avoiding jail time. 2. All stolen HOA funds recovered and distributed back to homeowners. 3. Constance and Dale's personal assets liquidated to pay Marcus's restitution and cover third-party home inspections. 4. Dale's company permanently banned from this county. 5. The mandatory HOA dissolves immediately, replaced by voluntary neighborhood association with transparent finances. A hand shot up. Young guy. One of the homeowners I'd red-tagged. What about our code violations? You still fix them, I said. But the county's waiving fines and extending remediation to 6 months. Dale Whitmore will be held liable for repair costs through civil court. You sue him. And I've contacted 3 reputable contractors for free estimates. You won't navigate this alone. Mrs. Nova raised her hand. What about dues we already paid? Judith smiled. Recovered funds distributed proportionally. If you've been here 7 years paying $450 a month, you're getting back approximately $37,000. The room stirred. Someone said $37,000. Another. That's our kitchen renovation. Lyle stood. I move we elect a new interim board right now. 3 people. Seconded, said the young guy. All in favor? Forest of hands? Nominations? It happened fast. Lyle nominated for president. Unanimous. Mrs. Nova for treasurer. She'd been a CPA. Rebecca, a local teacher, for secretary. 3 people who gave a damn about community instead of control. Rebecca stood. First order of business? I move we thank Marcus Aboa for saving this neighborhood. Applause. Louder. Someone whistled. I raised my hand. One more thing. I pulled up the final slide. The 1959 deed, highlighted differently. The original restriction requires mandatory public lake access. Ignored for 60 years, we're restoring it. New public dock, walking path, picnic area on the north parcel. Next image. Architectural rendering. Simple wooden dock, native plantings, small pavilion. County's paying for construction, but I'm asking for one addition. A bronze plaque dedicating the space to my grandfather, Hank Eboa, World War II veteran, who built his cabin here in 1963 because he believed this lake belonged to everyone. Silence. Then Lyle stood. I was Hank's neighbor 40 years. Best man I knew. Taught my son to fish off that dock. I say we call it Hank's Landing. Seconded, Mrs. Nova. All in favor? Unanimous. My throat tightened. Thank you, and one more piece. I'm donating $25,000 from my settlement to establish the Hank Eboa Memorial Scholarship for local kids pursuing skilled trades, carpentry, plumbing, electrical. The jobs that build real communities instead of HOAs that tear them apart. Standing ovation. Tears on faces that had been angry minutes ago. Inez approached with her camera. Marcus, can I get a statement? I looked at the lens, thought about who might be watching. If your HOA is measuring grass with rulers, billing you for expenses they won't explain, treating your home like their kingdom, you have rights. Check your state's sunshine laws, request financial records, talk to neighbors. Don't assume you're powerless because they have a clipboard. I paused. And if they come for your family's legacy while you're burying your father, make sure they learn some people know how to fight back. Inez lowered the camera. That's going viral. Good, I said. Outside, red and blue lights still flashing. Constance and Dale in separate patrol cars, news crews getting footage. I stood on the steps, breathing night air. Smelled like cut grass and lake water and something that felt like justice. Lyle appeared beside me. Your grandfather would be proud. Yeah, I said. He would. We stood watching the patrol cars pull away, taking Pinewood Shore's petty dictatorship with them. The lake reflected stars beyond the lights. Calm, eternal. Still there after all the human drama. Some things you can't bulldoze. 6 months later, April, first warm weekend of spring, I stood on the new dock, Hank's Landing, watching volunteers hammer the final boards on my rebuilt cabin. 23 families showed up today. Brought tools, lumber, sandwiches, coolers of beer. The kind of barn-raising energy my grandfather would have recognized. Community the way it used to work, before HOAs and clipboards. The cabin looked almost exactly like the original. Same footprint, same cedar siding, though the new stuff smelled sharper, less lived in. Same hand-carved railing design. Lyle had found a local woodworker who studied my grandfather's technique from the salvaged pieces. Not quite the same, close enough to feel like home. Constance pled guilty in February. 6 felony counts. Sentenced to 3 years, would serve 18 months minimum. Real estate license permanently revoked. Her Lexus sold at auction. House foreclosed. Last I heard, she was working prison laundry, which felt appropriate given how much dirty money she'd laundered through the HOA. Dale got 2 years for conspiracy and fraud. Contractor license revoked. Company dissolved. 11 homeowners sued him. 1. He'd be paying settlements for the next decade. The HOA's stolen funds, $540,000 recovered, were distributed to all 87 families. Checks arrived in January, averaged $6,000 per household, more for longtime residents. Mrs. Nova used hers to visit her daughter in California. The young couple with 2 kids put theirs toward fixing Dale's shoddy construction. 3 families donated portions to the scholarship fund. The Hank Aboa Memorial Scholarship awarded its first 3 recipients in March. Aspiring welder, carpenter, HVAC technician. All from working-class families, all local. Ceremony held right here at Hank's Landing. 50 people gathered on the new pavilion. I handed out awards while Sienna took photos for her Instagram. Her HOA horror story series had grown to 92,000 followers, turned into an advocacy platform for HOA reform nationwide. Pinewood Shores looked different now. The Voluntary Neighborhood Association kept dues at $75 monthly. Optional, for shared landscaping and snow removal only. No enforcement, no fines. No rulers measuring grass. People painted their houses actual colors. Blues, greens. One guy went bright yellow that probably made Constance scream from her cell. Property values increased 7%. Turns out freedom sells better than fascism. I was dating Robin, the engineer I'd met during the rebuild. 49, kind smile. Laughed at my terrible contractor jokes. We'd gone fishing off this dock twice. She was terrible at it, which somehow made it better. Sienna approved, which mattered more than I'd expected. The state legislature passed the Homeowner Protection Act in March. Mandatory HOA bond insurance, annual independent audits, easy conversion to voluntary associations, demolition without consent, automatic felony. The governor signed it standing beside me, called it Hank's Law in his remarks, my grandfather's name in legislation. He would have been embarrassed and secretly proud. Detective Reyes got promoted to sergeant. Judith took on 4 more HOA fraud cases, building a reputation as the lawyer who destroyed petty tyrants. Lyle was still fishing, still living 2 lots down, still the best neighbor anyone could ask for. And me? Still county building inspector, still doing my job. But twice now, someone at an inspection recognized me from news coverage, asked advice about their own HOA problems. I'd started keeping Judith's card in my wallet. I'd accidentally become a symbol for something bigger than one demolished cabin. This morning, I'd scattered the last of Dad's ashes off the new dock, said a few words. Felt him there in the way light hit the water. Felt my grandfather, too. 3 generations of Eboa men connected to this place, this lake, this stubborn refusal to let bullies win. The volunteers broke for lunch. Someone fired up a grill. Burgers and hot dogs, kids running on the dock, splashing in shallows. Normal, beautiful, what this place always should have been. Lyle walked over, handed me a beer. The bottle was cold and slick with condensation. Cabin's ready next week. You moving back in? Yeah, I said. I am. Good. We clinked bottles. Stood there watching the lake, the cabin, the community we'd fought for and won. You know what? This story isn't really about me. It's about what happens when ordinary people refuse to accept that petty tyrants get the final word. If you've got your own HOA nightmare, or any story about standing up to a Karen who thought she had all the power, drop it in the comments below. You're not alone in this. And hey, share this video with someone who needs to know they can fight back. Want more stories like this? Neighbors who refused to back down? Systems that got exposed? Underdogs who won against impossible odds? Hit that subscribe button for Karen stories. We post new justice tales every week. Because revenge might be a dish best served cold, but justice is always worth the wait. Oh, and Constance? If you're watching this from the prison library computer, my property values are doing just fine.